One of the biggest questions raised by the non-Muslims at the moment is the treatment of women in Islam. The way Islam portrays a woman and her status, and the way the religion is living sometime 1400 years ago and does not respect the women of today's society and does not grade them equal to men and grades them a lot less than that, if anything at all. The recent BNP leader commented on this when he was interviewed, and he said that Islam, I quote, he said, "Islam is an evil religion, just look at the way it treats its women." Unfortunately, this is the perception that has been portrayed by the West recently. However, if you look into the reasoning and if you look into the true understanding of the deen of Islam, you will appreciate that no one and no religion has ever given such right to women that Islam has done, and such status to women that Islam has done. And inshallah we will see that. But before we do that, let's have a look at the status of women before Islam. If you look at the historians' writing, they will state to you that women had no status. They were treated as beasts, they were treated as men's playthings, and they were used and abused. Those men who had a wife used to loan his wife to other men so that she could give birth to someone with higher lineage. Those men who were in debt used to loan their wives to their borrowers so that they could pay the interest off. Because the women were regarded just as playthings, with no morals, they had no ethics of life, and they had no reasoning, and women had no right to question. Men who gave birth to daughters were so ashamed of it that it was better for them to bury them alive. And this was the status of women before the coming of Islam. This is not just the status in Arabia, but if you look at the Greek historians, they have written that their women were treated along the same lines. If you look at the women's status in British society, only until the 19th and the 20th century, you will find that women were eventually given rights to vote in the democracy. Before that, women had no rights. In the same way, women had no rights for anything, even in British society. So we find today that women's rights and women's lib are the utmost talk of people's conversation. It is a right of a woman to dress as she wills. It is a right of a woman to walk and go where she wills. This is where Islam says that women and men are different, and Allah has created them different. Men have been created differently, with different personalities, with different strengths and different weaknesses. And women have been created in the same way. They have been created with different strengths and different weaknesses. And as long as men recognize who they are, and women recognize who they will have a successful life in this world, and they will have a successful akhirah. But one thing is for sure, that in the eyes of Allah, no one is higher than the other except for those with taqwa. Whether it is a woman or a man. Nowhere does it say in Sharia that if a man prays 2 rakat salah, he will be rewarded more reward than if a woman prays 2 rakat salah. Nowhere does it say in Sharia that if a woman fasts in the month of Ramadan, that she will be rewarded less than if a man fasts in the month of Ramadan. If a woman fights in the way of Allah, that she will be rewarded less than if a man fights in the way of Allah. Nowhere is there that dalil. There is that evidence in the Sharia. Because Allah says, "Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum." Verily, those pious, those close to Allah are those with taqwa. And if a woman has no taqwa, then Allah rewards that woman. So as far as giving women the reward for their deeds, and as far as giving men the rewards for their deeds, then the answer in the eyes of Allah is the same. You worship Allah with true sincerity, and Allah will reward you. If you worship Allah with show, then Allah will not reward you. And that is the fact.